Welcome to the driver's seat and the launch of the first ever Toyota BZ4X. We're in San Diego, California, and it's no surprise that Toyota chose California because 40% of all electric vehicles sold in the US are sold in this state. Now let's talk about the name first, BZ4X. BZ stands for Beyond Zero. It talks about emissions. 4 is the size designation, so think like 4 Series. So there might be a BZ2X down the road, or 6 or 8. Of course, Toyota won't comment on that. And X stands for SUV. It's a little bit of a stretch. This is more of a 5-door hatchback in my opinion, but we'll go with it for now. Now, to say that this is a conservative approach by Toyota is an understatement, and here's why. Only 7,000 units are planned for this first model year 2023. And they're only going to start with the ZEV states, the zero emission vehicle states, like California, and the rest of the states will get this vehicle in the fall. A very conservative approach, and even when you look at the range, somewhere between 228 and 252, depending on which configuration you get. It's available with XLE as a base and Limited as the upper trim, and you can get it with 2 or all-wheel drive, and the 2-wheel drive is front-wheel drive. So the range is conservative. The charging time is also conservative because you can't go from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes like you can with the Hyundai Ioniq 5. So just some examples of where Toyota scaled back, and I'm not going to say they're jumping in with 2 feet into the water. They're kind of dipping their toes into this first ever mass-produced electric vehicle for the world's biggest brand. As a current owner of 3 Toyota products, I can tell you that I feel the brand has struggled with design in the past, but they've nailed it on this BZ4X. So we'll start with the spoiler. It's a unique rear spoiler, and I think it really adds a lot to make this vehicle appear more sporty. This is the Limited with front-wheel drive, so that's going to be about $47,000. You get all-wheel drive, it adds $2,000. One thing about the Limited is you get the 20-inch wheels versus the 18-inch wheels on the XLE, and I think that adds a lot. All models get a fixed panoramic sunroof, so it's not going to slide, but it's nice. It makes the vehicle feel even more open and airy. It already feels that way because of the spacious interior design, but that adds to it. And they're all going to receive this angular, sporty design, very sculpted. I like it. It has this athletic look to it. So, from a design standpoint, which is not something we say very much about, From a design standpoint, I think Toyota nailed it, and that's not something we say very often about Toyota models. The interior is, as mentioned, very spacious and really fits the whole EV aura. With the Limited, you get power seats, which I highly recommend moving up to the Limited because you're going to need that. And the reason I say that is the steering column has very limited adjustment, so you're going to want to adjust the seat to fit your body type to the steering column. All right, let's see what this BZ4X is all about. We've already spent a few hours in it, so we have a good idea of how it handles on the highway, in the city, a couple little curvy roads, but overall exactly as we expected. The configuration of the steering column and seat is an issue because you have decent telescoping adjustments, but very limited tilt, and no matter where you put it, it seems to cut off about 25% of the gauge cluster, and that is a concern. The infotainment continues to be a challenge for Toyota. For example, 3 steps to go from Apple CarPlay to changing a station on XM radio, unless of course you use voice control. So they're just behind the times on some of these things. The turning radius is good on this vehicle, and the acceleration is acceptable. 0 to 60, 7.1 for the front wheel drive, 6.5 seconds for the all-wheel drive. Nothing about this vehicle is segment leading, earth shattering, except for the fact that it's a Toyota, and we expect it to have the Toyota DNA, which is QRD, quality, reliability, and dependability. And I think there are a lot of people that have been on the sidelines waiting for a brand like Toyota to get into the EV game, and even though they don't have the best range or the best acceleration, overall they delivered a nice package, priced around 45 to 50,000, eligible for all the tax credits and rebates. So time will tell, but I believe that outside of California, Toyota's opportunity continues to be with plug-in hybrids. It's a segment they own. I mean, hybrids in general, nobody even comes close to Toyota. And now that they have the plug-in hybrid option with the Prius Prime and the RAV4 Prime, those are the game changers. That allows people to get into the EV game without fully committing to it and being dependent on chargers. So speaking of chargers, with every BZ4X purchase, the owners will receive 1 year of free unlimited charging at EVgo. EVgo is one of the top 3 or 4 players in the public charging game. With that, though, Toyota also tells us that 80% of their customers are also going to be charging at home, which is smart. To me, public chargers are necessary, but you should not depend on them. If you plan on owning any electric vehicle, unless it's a Tesla, that might be the one exception, but any other electric vehicle, you should have a way to charge at home or at work, somewhere where you have a dedicated charger. You do not want to have to rely on public chargers because sometimes they don't work, sometimes they don't work properly, sometimes they're busy, occupied. And if you're in that boat, then you are going to have range anxiety, you're going to have some concerns, and you're not going to enjoy the electric vehicle experience. But if you commit and put a charger at home, and Toyota has programs to help you roll that into the financing, and they've teamed up with installers to put level 2 chargers. So they're looking at the whole ownership experience, and I think that's a smart way for them to go. Would I recommend the BZ4X? Of course. It's a Toyota, it's fully electric, and I think for the right buyer, it makes a lot of sense. But it is by no means segment leading in anything, as I mentioned, and the time will tell. But they have pretty conservative estimates at 7,000 units a year. I think they'll have no problem selling every one that they make. Toyota tells us in their marketing presentation that they're targeting digital mavens. I really don't know what that means, but I expect empty nesters and young families to aggressively flock towards this vehicle. And more importantly, I think people who have wanted to get into the EV game, but have waited for Honda and Toyota to offer a vehicle with proper range, and I think that's what the BZ4X is all about. Even though their estimates are pretty conservative, 7,000 units for the first year, I think you can expect to see more from Toyota and hopefully Honda and other manufacturers. I'm Ron Doran, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on The Driver's Seat.